You're welcome to the African Leadership Conversation, where we bring you relevant information about leadership on the continent. Our core mandate here is to bring you the answers to the hows, the whys, the whats, and the whens of leadership in Africa. I can't believe we are on episode 3 already, and today's topic is about leadership and accountability in volatile times. And for me, it's a very personal topic. You know, we are always about leadership stuff, and such issues can be talked about over and over again. And like I said, this is episode 3. So we've done 1, we've done 2, and it feels like just yesterday when we started. So we want to thank you, our viewers and our audience, for all your suggestions and for all your comments. We've taken them and we will try to improve on our content so that you can enjoy listening and watching us. Before I get carried away, I have 2 guests here who are waiting to share their opinions. There's Christopher here. He's grinning all over. Christopher, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And then my very own good co-host, should I say, Sylvester.
Yeah.
You're also welcome.
Pity for having me again.
Okay, so today, unlike the first 2 episodes, I have a surprise. So I have here this box. I have some questions here I would like them to choose, and then we'll get to hear something. Well, I wouldn't want to say what's here, but then they get to select one each, and then at the end they get to select the final question. So I'll start with Christopher. And then no, I would open it. So Christopher, I'll take yours first. Okay, so Christopher's question is, who is your favorite young leader and why? Feel free.
This is kind of a tricky question. Who is my favorite? Okay. I think as of now, I would say Yima is a favorite. Not because I'm right here at TGLC Center, but just about a year.
Now, Christopher, who is Ima? Some of our viewers don't know Ima.
So, Emmanuel Nwama is actually the founder and co-lead at the Grace Life Leadership Center. And I'm not saying this because of I'm right here or I'm an aspiring leader right here, but just within the moment of 2 years that I've encountered him, when it comes to the issue of leadership, when it comes to the practice of leadership, and then when it comes to sharing ideas on the leadership, I think he has mastered the subject. And not just mastered the subject, but I am a co-believer of the principle of legitimacy, which says that you cannot successfully speak on a subject if you've not really gone through it yourself or you've not experienced it yourself. So I believe so much that Hima has actually undergone, understudied, and have a lot of experience when it comes to the subject of leadership. Hence, he earns the right to speak and teach others about leadership. For me, your understanding determines your undertaking, and I believe that is what Emmanuel has actually impacted in me, and I look up to him as a mentor and then as well as a role model. Thank you.
So who is Emmanuel again?
Emmanuel, again, he's the founder and the co-lead at the Grace Life Leadership Center, pioneering Africans or raising generation leaders and then inspiring the next leaders for Africans transformation. Yeah.
You mean he's the co-founder? Okay. So Emmanuel, wherever you are, you've inspired Christopher so much, and he has nominated you as his favorite young leader. Okay. So Sylvester's question. Mind you, they did not have any idea this was going to happen, so they are very surprised. Okay, so yours is also, who is your favorite African leader and why?
So when we talk about African leaders, I think we have political leaders, we have business leaders, we have social leaders, and all of that. And I think I've said it here before that I really admire the leadership of Patrick Ewa, the founder of Ashesi University, for his boldness and his foresight in starting Ashesi University, and his willingness and passion to redefine education in Africa. So for now, when it comes to my ideal type of leadership, really making impact, real impact in the lives of people, I think Patrick Ewa comes tops the list for me.
So, Patrick, wherever you are, you've inspired a young man here. And I guess not just him, but then a lot of other young people all over the world. So the first person we heard from, which is Christopher. Christopher is a youth leader and activist. He's a content writer. He's a kingdom preacher and also an aspiring leader at the Grace Life Leadership Center. He's with the foundation sector. And then Sylvester is our president. He's the president of the education sector and a consultant, Africa China Business Affairs. It was very interesting hearing your perspective, especially when I put you to the spot about like selecting who you thought was your young leader. And I like that you all chose Africans. I mean, yours wasn't restricted to an African, but then you ended up choosing an African. And even though yours was restricted, you chose a Ghanaian, which means that we have people around us that are really making good impact, and it's good to know. Yes. So on the issue of leadership and accountability, we can see all around us sometimes uncertainty happens. There can be pandemics, there's war, there's famine. And when such occurrences do happen, we always look to our leaders, hoping that they'll come to our rescues and salvage the situation. But the leaders, on the other hand, too, some decide to just wait and watch. And then there are others who also take opportunity of those volatile times to explore the next thing that they can do whilst working on the solution. Today's topic on leadership and accountability, we want to find out, Christopher, when we talk about leadership and accountability, what do we mean, especially in the context of an organization or a country?
This is, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me, and then also to thank your cherished viewers and the listeners.
The pleasure is all ours.
Yeah. First of all, I think, again, you put me on the spot, but that was the frank nature of it, that Emmanuel Norma has been very amazing as a leader, and looking at the terrain we are finding ourselves in, where there is so much volatility when it comes to the issues of Africa, when it comes to issues surrounding leadership in Africa. And of course, with a popular saying that leadership is a cause and everything else is an effect. So having so much chaos in Africa and everybody want to solve a problem, I think herein comes a leader who actually want to solve a problem, right? In a moment of chaos and uncertainty, where there is no direction and where there is no purpose and everybody is doing whatever pleases him or her. First to the question, I think as well, when it comes to the issue of leadership, a lot of people have so many ideas when it comes to the issues of leadership and accountability. But first of all, permit me to define the word leadership and accountability in my context before moving on. In my understanding, the word leadership simply means solving problem. But when it relates to organization, it means mobilizing resources to solve problem. So when the aspect of solving problem is extinct, then it means there is no leadership. Anywhere in the world, when there is no solution being offered to a problem, then it means there is no leadership. So then comes to the next question, which is what then is accountability? To my basic understanding as well, these two words, leadership and accountability, are inextricably linked and they cannot really be separated. Based on that, accountability is taking responsibility for the resources that you are mobilizing to solve the problem, and as well, the problems and the solution you are offering. So if you're not ready to take accountability for the solution you are offering, either it's going to be right or wrong, then it means you are not yet a leader and you are not ready to be a leader. As well as if you are not ready to give an account detail to detail, the resources that has been entrusted into your care to solve the problem, then again, you are not yet a leader. Because even when it comes to the process of the people that you work with, be it a team or the resources that you are able to mobilize to solve the problem, they are all an entrustment, or they are all being given to you. So you are just a steward over them. But you have to give an account to each and every resources at your disposal. If you're not ready to give an account to it, then again, that is where the problem is. And for me, I believe that is where the problem of Africa lies, where a lot of people don't have solutions to the problem that they found in Africa, and then as well, even when they are being given the position, the resources, and then the people, again, they are not ready to give an account. And the very moment you demand accountability thereof, you become an enemy of the state, become an enemy of the organization. So for me, it is very important for us to understand, both individually and as an organization and country and institutions, that the very moment you are stepping into the world of leadership, first of all, you are ever ready to give solutions to problems, and then also you are ever ready to give details account as of the resources that you have been entrusted into your care, or that has been entrusted into your care. Thank you.
Yeah. Sly?
Yeah, so I think Christopher made some very good points, and I agree with majority of the stuff that he said, especially on the point that leadership and accountability are inextricably linked. They go hand in hand, and I think that is where I want to start from. Leadership, I'm sure when we talk about leadership, our viewers are very, much aware of what it is, especially currently in Ghana and Africa. Everyone says that the problem of Africa is leadership. What do they really mean? I think we are all speaking the same language. It simply means that those who are supposed to know the way, lead the way, go the way, show us the way, are not doing their job, right? And especially in terms of political leadership, which is currently what we are all looking at solving, because it looks like it is political leadership that is driving a lot of economies across the world now, right? So leadership and accountability move hand in hand again, so that leadership is accountability, and then accountability is leadership. In fact, it doesn't matter whether you are accountable to a group of people or what. Here at TGLC, we believe that you need to lead yourself first. So you need to be accountable even to yourself, right? So that is leadership right there at play. And so, even in the context of an organization, you need to be able to show work, right? It's kind of show your work. At the end of the day, what did you do, right? So it's really important that we actually talk about accountability, because currently, especially in our part of the world, it looks like that part of leadership has been taken away, where people assume positions of leadership. Even though here at TGLC we believe that leadership is not a position, people assume leadership positions in offices, and at the end of the day, they can't actually show anything. They just come to warm the pews, like people say. So without accountability, there is no leadership, and it simply means that showing results, so showing the solutions that you professed. And that's why earlier I said leadership is basically knowing the way. So you are telling us, okay, I know what we need to do, right? In terms of this organization, or in terms of a country, I know what we need. Then I show how we go there, and I actually go there with you. So if you are doing that, in the process of doing that, you are just simply also showing accountability, right? So again, the point I'm trying to make is that leadership and accountability are brothers. They are one side of the same coin. Two sides of the same coin, like they say. Yeah.
So that means when you decide to take on a leadership position, know that you must also be accountable. Don't wear one and leave the other
Yes,
because now
exactly.
they are linked.
Yeah, they are linked. They're
No.
linked.
So moving away from leadership and accountability, I want us to look at leadership and management. Now we understand there's a difference between leadership and then management, but how can we utilize both of them to navigate volatile times in an organization or even in the country as a whole?
So it's a really interesting question, and especially the volatility aspect of it. In fact, we found ourselves in a place where we are in the most volatile environment, like especially in Africa. African countries are the most volatile countries, in the world, and I'll tell you why. We are currently in a world that is characterized by about three factors. Number one is interdependence. Our world is characterized by interdependence, and I'll explain that. Interconnectedness and velocity. Interdependence in the sense that all the countries in the world are now dependent on each other for survival, right? Ghana is dependent on Nigeria for something. Nigeria is dependent on Cote d'Ivoire for something. The US is dependent on most African countries for something, and we all know that.
And just to chip that, even with the after coming, then that means the whole 54 countries are going to just have to depend on each other.
The world, the 21st century world is a world of interdependence and interconnectedness, right? Where if something is happening in the US right now, you are able to know. If something is happening in the remotest of places in Ghana, someone somewhere in Sri Lanka is able to know, right? And that is why, we have transportations. They call it a world of what, I've forgotten the term, but it's just to say that whatever is happening in one part of the world can be known in the other part of the world. Velocity, in the sense that information travels very fast, right? In the same thing. And if you look at these three factors that characterize the world right now, and the fact that Africa, especially in interdependence, we are very dependent on a lot of economies. That is why when COVID struck, our economies were almost collapsing. Some countries were very resilient to it, and they were able to, because even what we eat, I'm very surprised to know that our inflation is being driven by food. To a high extent, which is crazy because you have just handed over your survival to someone, into someone's hands, right? So we are the most volatile countries in the world, and that calls for more effective leadership. Because, in fact, and it means that when the American dollar is rising, ours is falling. Basically, that's what it means. If Ukraine and Russia are fighting, then we will suffer for it. So that is what I mean by we are the most volatile, economies in the world. And that is why we need to talk about who will, yes.
So just to say that with the Ukraine and with the dollar rising, other countries feel it, but we bear the brunt the most.
Exactly, because we didn't get the basics right. And Dr. Baumia, Vice President, is right by saying that when the foundations are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. That is a very factual statement. I don't know what he meant by that, but some of us resonate with it a lot because we didn't get the foundations right to the extent that we are not able to feed our own economies, right? So leadership, management are terms that can be used interchangeably in terms of volatility, so that the leader, and if you want to get the differences, a leader kind of gives the vision, right? And then a manager kind of executes it, if you like, right? A leader simply is the visionary, and a manager is the one, supposed to handle the execution process of it. But both are important when it comes to handling situations like what is happening in Mepe. I don't know whether that's the right name, the Volta region.
Yes.
The current
flood situation,
right? We need both leaders and managers. Now, we need people to manage the situation immediately, right? But even beyond that, we need people who will be able to foresee the situation happening in the next 2 years or 3 years again and try to curtail it, right? So both people, either the person is a leader, and in fact, for me, a leader is supposed to also be a manager. When it happens, you are supposed to have the ability to solve it, right? So I think even though these are different words, but I think they are important in our context, especially in the context of volatility. We need people who can manage the situation. We need people who can foresee and forestall and curtail the problem.
Yeah, that was a brilliant way you took it, Christopher.
That's amazing.
Really, really amazing.
That's amazing from Sly. Yeah, very very amazing. Just to add some few words, um, I think again the two words are kind of very intertwined, and then they are very difficult to separate. And in fact, even in most leadership aspects, defining the two, in terms of differentiating the two, is kind of very difficult. But of course, still we can find some middle ground, and still we can find some other grounds, which have to do with the fact that leadership is more about inspiring and influencing, and just like Sarai said, bringing about a vision. And then whilst management or manager have to come from the perspective of, okay, the vision has come, what do we do? Execution of the vision. Again, leadership move away from just the vision, like what we are discussing right now, the uncertainties that the world we find ourselves in, especially in this context of Africa, it brings about a lot of disruption. So leadership much more look into the disruption nature, set a goal, solve that problem by the help of management. Again, debunk or go a little bit above solving that problem, setting new goals, asking management to maintain the status quo. So it's kind of leadership bring about solving problem, changing and then revolving, bringing new things into order, whilst management continuously begin to kind of create that system of law and order, and then again to kind of keep the status quo. So keeping the status quo, not in the negative perspective, but asking, okay, this has been solved, how do we keep it? Because for me, it is very important in an aspect of management, because in terms of technology, the world of technology, the world of economy, everything is revolving, everything is changing day by day, day by day. So we need somebody to see beyond the current status. But before you can even see beyond the current status and then move above to solve which is above, you first of all must establish a very firm foundation where management comes in. So the leader necessarily do not have the capacity and ability to build a very firm foundation. They just see the vision and then move a little bit ahead, see the vision, draft a plan, give it out for management to execute. But when it comes to building a firm foundation for every economy, for every person, then that is where management comes in. So you don't just end up on the fact of seeing the future, seeing a vision or setting a goal. After seeing the future and setting a goal, you must take a step to manage that goal, because that firm foundation must be built. Like Sly quoted our vice president, when the foundation is not effective. Of course, agreeing with the scriptures as well, is that when the foundation is being destroyed, what can the righteous do? So you may see the vision all right, set the goal all right, but the onus lies on management to make sure that they build a very firm foundation for you to move to the next stage. Because when you don't build a firm foundation, the very moment you move to the next stage, what will happen is that the entire building will collapse. That is why the scripture in Matthew chapter 7, I guess so, 24 to 27, makes a reference that there was a man, two men actually, who went to build, one built on the sand, the other one built on a solid foundation. The one who built on the sand, the very moment the storm rose and then the wind began to blow, everything collapsed simply because it was built on the sand. So the person not necessarily that the person was not having a vision. There was a vision of building a very tall building or a very nice apartment. But as to the fact of the sustainability of that building is where management comes in. But when we check the second one, which have to do with the man who built on the solid foundation, of course, he saw the vision of building a tower. He saw the vision of building an apartment. And at the end of the day, that's not the end. He put together people, and then they draft a plan, direct a way, manage the people, motivate the people, and then move in that kind of beat people, not in the negative way as in beating people, but beat people in line in order to solve the problem and build the foundation to that extent that the building at the end of the day, no matter what storms and wind and rain comes down, would not collapse the building.
So, gentlemen, picking from Sly's analysis, we understand our current environment, the volatility is present. So, in terms of opportunities and in terms of challenges, what opportunities are there in this kind of situation, and what challenges too are there? Who wants to go?
The biggest opportunity in terms of volatile situations or unforeseen circumstances is so that we can reassess our current arrangements, right? So, for instance, let me use COVID. When COVID struck, not so many economists or not so many leaders across the world knew what to do. But, however, it was an opportunity for countries, especially African countries, to relook at their health services, their health infrastructures, their health arrangements, etc., right? So that when the next, we don't all want that to happen, but if the next COVID strikes, then we're in a better position to do something better than that, right? Again, in Ghana, we have many issues like the flood that has just happened. I'm not sure this is the first time. Probably it has happened, So, good. Very good. So this is where we've not taken advantage of the volatile situation in our part of the world. This is where the people who are supposed to manage, the people who are supposed to lead us are not doing their work. Because when it happens once, you are supposed to learn from it. So back to your question. It provides us the opportunity to learn, reassess, and build back better for the next situation that will happen. Because we're in a world that is full of uncertainties. We are now talking about climate change, which is causing havoc here and there. How are we better prepared to manage these situations? So for me, volatile situations present us the opportunity to relook at how things are done and prepare for the future. Because it's not about what happens right now that defines you, but how you manage what happens next that defines you. For me, that is what I think the opportunity is.
Okay, and the challenges?
So the challenges will be whether we have the men to handle the situation when it happens, right? Whether we are prepared to solve the situation when it happens, and whether we are prepared to knock on the door of meritocracy when it happens. Now, in the current situation in the Volta region, are we using technocrats? Are we using skillful people to solve the problem? Are we using people who are knowledgeable in solving flooding situations? Or we are just going about politics? I think that's the challenge here, where we are not able to leverage on the technical men that we have to solve problems, but then we rely on politics. It's all about political rhetorics here and there. So that is, for me, the challenge that we face in our part of the world when it comes to the volatile situation. When the dollar is rising and the cedi is falling, what do we see? Do we see people who constitute, they call them economic management team and all of that? Are we seeing technocrats being constituted to look at the problem holistically from a very objective point of view? Or we see politics being played about? When there is an accident, do we constitute people to look at it and help make sure that that same accident doesn't happen? Or again, it's politics. So we are in a very interesting but sad situation where the volatile nature of the environment doesn't even provide us with the opportunities I'm talking about. It happens, we don't really look at it, we don't look at it critically, and then we move, and then we continue moving. So that is the challenge we have, you know.
Because, of course, I am that firm believer that, hey, when uncertain situations rises, when storms come, what leaders do is actually to use that as a springboard for success. But of course, it's very important where we have the place of management as well. So let me cite a brief example. We hear here is David, who had an opportunity. Throughout his entire life, he was in the bush, kind of being a shepherd over sheep, and then protecting sheep. And then the parent have to send him to give some food to the senior brothers on the battlefield. And he met this kind of volatile situation, this kind of storm where the entire warlord of his nation were running away, including the king. And then this 17-year-old boy saw the situation. And then instead of also running away, he rather stood and faced the situation and conquered the popular Goliath that everyone speaks about. So in most cases, sometimes if we see situations coming and that we don't tackle them face or ahead of time, what happens is that
so just to be sure, so in this case, the volatile environment will be the Goliath.
Exactly.
The volatility.
Exactly.
Okay.
In most situations, when we don't face it head on, what happens is that this kind of uncertainty and this kind of volatile situation becomes a monster to us. So you could see that the Bible describes it from that perspective, that 40 days and 40 nights, these Goliath tormented the Israelite. So you can imagine the kind of anxieties that they have to go through. You can imagine the kind of situation that they have to go through, that 40 days and 40 nights, there was no peace. All that internally, what was going on was kind of chaotic because, of course, you met one person that is terrorizing you. So it is very important, and it presents a situation that anytime that situation comes, we have to see beyond, and not just for us to wait. So that's why when it comes to the point of the current incidents that we are facing, which is the Kosombo spillage, it is very important for us. I'm not seeing a kind of leadership in there, not even a single kind of leadership. Why? Because leadership must see beyond today. Leadership must see beyond what is happening and then see into the future, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years. Let me set an example of a man who, of course, we all regard so much, and then humbly to know that he was the first president and prime minister of this country, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. This man saw an incident which have to be the transportation system in Ghana, and he decided to build the Toma motorway. And this motorway has lasted for how many good years? Over 60 years. And to date, no leader has been able to work on the Toma motorway. When you go across the country and then you see our transport system, is something good to speak about in that code context, because it has grown from worse into worse, and we can as well use the issue of or the facility of the Kosombo instrument, which is currently posing as a threat to livelihood and then lives at the moment, that this man saw beyond the next 50 years, the next 60 years during his days, and then decided to come out with such an instrument to solve the darkness issues that confronted the country by then. So for me, it is very important that leadership must not see now, but must see into the future. So this kind of situation presents an opportunity for us, or leader must always think ahead to know that, okay, these are some of these uncertainties that are going to happen in the future. So how do we solve it? How do we move away and go above that when the storms come, we'll rather use it as an opportunity to transport ourselves into a bigger platform. For instance, when we are using the issue of the sea most times poses as a threat to a lot of people, but at the same time, we see the ship and the boat floating over the water as a means of transportation. So seas in most situations, or storms in most situations, and volatility in most situations present us an opportunity, not mostly for the current, but also for the future. We must think ahead and know that, okay, these are some of the uncertainties that are going to happen. So we must tackle it from that perspective. And then the management position, where they also have to know that, play along with the leader to know that, okay, this is what the leader is saying. How do we put system and structures in place in order to solve the likelihood of the situation that is going to happen? So we talk about the risk. So volatility presents a risk, which is a challenge. But how do we go above that? So risk simply means it may or may not happen. But of course, you always have to put system and structures to curtail the situation if it probably is going to happen. So I think for me, these are some of the challenges that it presents. But of course, it also presents an opportunity of disruption. I've already spoken about that, especially in the technology industry, where more innovations are coming, where more ideas are coming. Currently, time passed, nobody knows about green skills, though we have it. But as it now, when you enter into the job system, seeking for job, and when you enter into the civil society space, you hear almost everybody speaking about green skills. And the next future is always going to be about green skills. It's going to be about green economy. So if you don't have the capacity to live in that green world, it means at the end of the day, you are going to die off. Again, it also presents an opportunity of competitiveness, where again, and that is also another opportunity and another risk as well. Because if you don't build the capacity for you to see the future, when that competition is happening, you are going to retard, just like Africa is retarding. Yeah.
That was a strong statement. Anyway, so you get the concept about leadership and accountability. Sly gets the concept about leadership and accountability. I get the concept. But how about our viewers out there? How do you foster accountability among our teams? I think I'll...
Oh, yes, maybe he can go for it.
Well,
Yeah.
I think Sarah wants to take it. So let's
No, you want to catch a break?
yes. So let him take it.
Okay,
Yeah,
Sly.
so I always want to be very practical with some of these things, because it looks like all these years the theories and the verbal statements and terminologies don't help, right?
Yeah, this is
So-
it's exactly one of the aims for the African leadership conversation. You want to
Yeah.
be as pragmatic as possible,
Yeah.
and not just pouring out historic information.
Yeah.
So,
So
get at it.
accountability. Let me use the political landscape, for instance. We vote for political parties to form governments to help us solve problems and provide solutions to challenges that we have, right? Now, in the course of doing that, we expect that this government will be accountable to us. So within the government, how do they foster? So I'm just using an example of the government. How do they foster accountability? Number one, I think it's important that leaders or managers are firm in whatever rules that they are playing. Firm in the sense that you are leading a group of people, right? Definitely, someone might fall off, someone might misbehave. But in the spirit of accountability, you want to make sure that these people do the right thing. So when you don't instill that kind of discipline and firmness in that group, then you are not able to account to the people well, right? So for instance, we see a lot of corruption all over the place. The most accountable way of going about it is to let us see what these governments do to their teams, so that when somebody embezzles funds, you are supposed to bring them to the book. You are supposed to do the right thing, either to get the money back because this is public money or something, right? But what we see is the sheer, disregard of these processes, right? So I think that one of the ways is the firmness, being firm and trying to instill that discipline. That's one way to ensure accountability, right? The other way is to lead the way, right? To actually find yourself doing the thing, right? If you want people to do, the best way to make people to do what you want them to do is to do it yourself. That is why earlier I said that John C. Maxwell says that leadership is knowing the way, showing the way, and going the way, right? So it's important that in order to show that, to enforce or to ensure that there's accountability in whatever organization, you need to show the way. You need to let people know that you are doing it. Okay, we have a job to do. What happens? You need to lead the way. If it's about arranging a place, you need to do that. If it's about sacrificing, you need to sacrifice first, right? Here at TGLC, we believe that leadership is servanthood. You need to serve the people. So for me, these are the two main things. Making sure that you are part and parcel of the process, and also being firm and instilling discipline. Probably that can help a lot of leaders and managers ensure accountability in whatever they do. Yeah.
Chris?
Thank you. So there are a number of things, right? But let me use two experiences that I've had as a form of a story. So I think somewhere in July was with my team, we're supposed to head towards the Volta region for a program because that is during the International African Child Day project, and we usually host a program called the Identity Summit mostly for girl child. Yeah, so I called the team together. We had our clear plan and everything, and we're supposed to move to the place. The program was actually on Sunday, right? So I told them that, hey guys, the place is quite far, so we have to work our axis off and then make sure that at the end of the day we achieve maximum results. So the program was supposed to start around 12 noon. So, but I called the guys together. We had a clear plan. Okay, these two people are going ahead. So myself and Crystolite, of course, Crystolite is the executive director. Sorry, I say executive director. So Crystolite is the director of communication at Royal Africa Generation. I think is the team of which I'm a member of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just trying to be very modest. He actually is the lead for the organization. He calls the shots,
So what happened was I said, hey, for you, we are going ahead. So we left Accra 3:30 a.m. Though the program was to start 12 noon, just to make sure that we get there, we kind of arrange things and settle other things, though we have somebody over there who is doing the on-ground mobilization and then kind of organization and everything for us, but we still have to go ahead of time. And we, again, asked the rest of the team, hey, Gideon is the director of partnership and the sponsorship. Okay, you guys have a vehicle. What you have to do is that we have a speakers coming. So you and your wife bring the speakers along. And then this time, you're supposed to leave Accra this time. Not a minute late. Make sure that you're on time. So when we got there, we tried as much as possible arranging everything. When it was time, as in they were supposed to leave Accra exactly 8 a.m. So I gave them a call, and then they said that, hey, we just started the journey. And I said, okay, that's very perfect. So I called the speakers also to know if they are comfortable, and then they confirmed that they are very comfortable. Now, during the process of the event, we ordered for food, especially for the guests and then the speakers. Unfortunately, the lady was not bringing the food, and the journey to where the food is almost about 2 hours, and nobody knows there except me. So, and in fact, that is going to be my first day that I have to even journey there to the place, because I was just giving the direction. So, and I was moderating the entire or emceeing the entire event. So quickly, I just have to call Crystal right aside and to, hey, this is the situation. I don't want an issue where after the guests and we finish with everything, the food is not ready for the guests and the speakers after spending so many hours driving down here. So I have to hand over to her. So that have to do with delegation, and told her that, hey, okay, so make sure that everything goes successfully. So I'll be back. So quickly, I have to get a car, charter a vehicle to the place, get the food, and then by the time I came back, they were already done with the program. Right? Though it was in the process of the entire middle of the conversation or the summit that I have to go away. But by the time I came back, they were already done. And luckily for us, they sat, was the name, the guests down, and then gave them some was the refreshment before the food finally came. So exactly, yes, exactly. So the reason why I have to share that story is this, because one, leadership is needed to set a clear vision. What is the vision of the team? What is the vision that you want to execute on? Don't just set a vision, but as well, it is very important for you to break that vision down into several goals, and if possible, into sub-goals. Now, it is also important not just to break that vision down, but as well to build the right team. Because, of course, one of the slogan of was the TGLC have to be the fact that the right team gets the work done. Okay, so if you want to get the work done, you have to get the right team. So it is very important for you to build the right team. This right team must surround you and surround the team. So I spoke about Crystal, I spoke about Gideon, I spoke about Joyce, I spoke about Newton. All these people are people around me, or the vision, and then making sure that things goes in order. So not just ending on the building the right team, it is also important for you to as well delegate responsibilities. That's where I just cite an example of what's the name, Crystal taking over from me. There was a volatile situation, there was uncertainty, something that in fact we weren't even thinking that is going to happen, because already plans and everything was in place for us to make sure that everything goes very smoothly. But of course, in most situations, we must also have it in mind that anything at all can happen. On certain situations, things that you do not even think of or predict may end up happening. But how do you solve it? So you build your team and then delegate was the name. Responsibilities. But in a process of delegating responsibility, you must communicate in clear terms both the vision and their responsibility. Because when there is no effective communication, then there will be an issue. To me, everybody can speak, but not everybody can communicate. Because there is difference between communication and speaking. There is difference between talking and communication. And it is very important that as a leader, and most times when it comes to communication, you must identify the subject of your communication, or the person you are communicating to, and make sure that you channel that communication to the person for the understanding of the person. So you don't just communicate to an entire team and assume that everybody understands. So I think it's very crucial from that perspective. Another sense have to be, we are working on a national project called Ghana Youth Manifesto, and then when we were about to do the survey, we started the survey collection. We held a meeting for the enumerators, and then elaborate their functions, and then how to use the app and everything. And they understood, and everybody's assignment and co went on very well. But it is also important that whilst in the process, you have to take feedback, consistent feedback, and not just in the process of you taking feedback. It is very important as well to kind of be familiar with the people, or your co-workers, or your team, and everybody that matters in the situation. Because I want to cite an example. There was this young guy, from the Savannah region. He was the top guy who was collecting the data, and he was very active. But unfortunately, I do reach out, but he never told me that he was sick. So, but in the process, when I reached out this very day, and he told me that, hey, I've been hospitalized. And I said, oh, okay, so how do we go about it? I spoke to him, and fortunately, he was hospitalized for 2 days, and later on, he got discharged. The point I want to make is that as a leader, it is also very important for you to take the welfare of the team into an account. By that, they will really be accountable to you, knowing that you care about them, knowing that you motivate them, knowing that your communication to them as in their roles and the goals were very clear. But if the roles, the vision and everything thereof is not very clear, then it means the place of accountability is going to be very chaotic.
Okay. I think this is very, very clear and straightforward. So during COVID, our president became famous for quoting that we do not know how to bring lives back, but we know how to turn the economy around. And I think it was globally accepted. Everybody lauded him. And that quote was from his address to the nation during the COVID period. He used to have frequent addresses and telling us what was happening and what measures the government had put in place. Now, why am I referring to the president's quotes that got him like everywhere? It's because of communication. So in terms of when there's a volatile situation, how does communication help leaders to be able to sail through such times? Especially open communication, as a matter of fact. Sly or
No, I think maybe Christopher wants to come in.
Christopher is smiling. He has the answers.
I thought I kind of try addressing that area. So, of course, we give
No,
it to
they
my-
retreated if you did.
Okay, so I was saying that you in every situation, and not just situation, but in every kind of leadership and management, it's very important for you to, one, communicate your vision very clearly, and make sure that the vision is actually dedicated to the individual and not to the collective. Because most times you may communicate on a table thinking that people understand whatever you are communicating, but trust you may end up at the wrong side. So it is very important because people are coming from different environments, different cultures, different diversities and religion and races. So different outbringing. So how do you communicate with them for them to understand whatever you are communicating? So for me, it is very important, have the vision, break the vision down, communicate in clear terms, one, to the team, and two, to the individuals of the team. And by so doing, when the communication is very clear, accountability becomes much more easier.
Yeah. And just picking up from there, so we believe that leaders are servants, right? And if we want to use the very typical understanding of a servant, now your master sends you to buy something in the market. You get there and the situation is different. You are not able to buy the thing. I think it's just fair, respectful, and the right thing that you communicate back to your master that, sir, when I got there, the market didn't open on time and I have to wait, So I think communication is important in the situation of leading a nation, so that your followers, in fact, I think is the upside down. So we believe that whoever is there, President Akufo-Addo, is the servant of the people. So the people become the masters. So it's just fair that they communicate to the people frequently. So for instance, in this situation in the Volta region again, I personally was expecting to get the same address, just like it was during the COVID time. Because, people have relations all over the country, all over the world, and they want to know what is happening on the ground, right? So in this situation, it's important that leadership communicates, probably the Ministry of Communication or the Ministry of Information, I don't know what they are, but they should give us frequent, updates on what is happening on the ground. Okay, so currently the water has reduced to this level. Currently the people are going back to their places. Currently we have this support coming in. Currently we have that. I think it's important to relieve people of anxiety, number one, and to help us know what is happening and where we are going to. So I think communication is very key in volatile situations. If the dollar is rising, if inflation is high, if there's food scarcity, it's important that they communicate with us so that we know what is happening.
Yeah, I like that point because I think at the moment there are a lot of scattered reports about the spillage from various sources, and you cannot really confirm which one it is.
We need authoritative feedback
Yes,
and updates.
yes.
I don't know if I'm permitted. For me, I would have even wished by now the CEO of VRA by now has resigned because, of course, to date, he has not himself, he has not made any public appearance as to speaking on the issue, unless he's deputy CEO. So in such a situation, we want to see a lot of leadership. So if your deputy CEO is the one to provide this leadership in these uncertain times, then it's better you resign because we can't really see what you are doing.
I see where Chris is coming from. I see his activism set in motion, but hold on to that. So finally, when it comes to future trends, how do you think leadership will evolve as it pertains to these like volatility in future? Chris?
All right. I think there is so much knowledge that has been impacted into our generation. There is so much awareness being created. A lot of people are becoming very much aware of what democracy really is about. And I can see, of course, again, permit me to quote the scriptures. It said that during the last days, according to Daniel, knowledge shall increase, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of our time. And I can see that a lot of people are growing in knowledge of what democracy is truly about and what the responsibility of citizens and leaders is about. I can see there is a minimal demand when it comes to private demands on politicians, but I can also see a lot of agitation in terms of demanding for responsibility from our leaders as well. So I think the future is kind of very interesting in the African context. Is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very amazing for the continent. Looking at the number of young people who are hungry for change, who are now understanding what leadership is, and who are now venturing into leadership, not to acquire wealth and not to kind of understand leadership as a position or as a fashion, but they understand it more as a moment of function where they have to take responsibility for something. And they understand it that, first of all, I must be of a good position in my personal leadership style before going into demand for accountability from the next person in position. So for me, in a basic word, I see the future of leadership and accountability on the African continent to be very interesting, and of course, a very sustainable development will
So that means
resurrect out
brighter
of
days
that.
ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sly, do you think same?
So probably a couple of things, or maybe two. The future might either be bleaker than it is, or might be brighter than it is now, based on factors that that is obvious to us. So, for instance, all that is happening around us, COVID came, climate change issues, and all of that, inflation, and a lot of things. We also see coups around. All these are volatile situations, right? Now, the reason why I'm saying the future might be bleaker than this, because if we don't learn from the current situation, then we are in for a lot of doom. I'm not a prophet of doom, but just looking at the current situation, if we don't
want to become agabus.
if we don't learn from the current situation, then we are in for something, terrible than what we are experiencing. However, if young people who are watching the current generation of leaders learn from it, pick ideas from it. So, for instance, how is the current government managing the spillage in the Volta region? Okay, they did that. Okay, what could have been done better? learning from the experience. If we get a new generation of leaders who learn from the current experiences of their leaders, then we are in for a brighter future. And if we get more people being conscious, more intentional about this whole leadership thing, then we're also in for a good future. So that, for instance, if we get more young people learning about leadership, learning about management, if we get young people listening to such conversations that are happening, that management and leadership move hand in hand, leadership and accountability move hand in hand, and then they become conscious of that, then definitely something better will happen. And if we get young people who know that the foundations must be restructured, to avoid certain issues in the future, then we are in for a good future as well. Because inflation has always been like this. The cedi has always been weaker than the dollar for so many years. Somebody says that if we change the government, are we going to see something different? Unfortunately, no, because the fundamentals are weak. And that was what Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was trying to solve. So that at the initial stages, we are supposed to build our house well, so that whatever follows is just like cosmetics. If you're not able to feed the generation, our current population right now, then what are we talking about? So the point I'm trying to make is that the future is both as exciting as it is dangerous. If we don't learn from it, if we don't apply principles, then it might not be good. But with what the Grace Life Leadership Center is doing and other organizations and institutions doing, I'm tempted to say that if we play our cards well, the future might be better. We might get leaders who can foresee the future and propose solutions to volatile situations even before they happen.
So, Sly and then Chris, thank you for this wonderful discussion on leadership and accountability. But before we go, I promise the part 2 of the game. So here we go. So Sly chose first. So,
no, I chose second.
Yes, so you must choose first.
So let's see what is here.
And then you.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. So, okay. So Sly, yours is, I'm going to start the sentence, then you complete it.
Oh.
So there's this, the inspiration is from a movie. So many of you are fans of this Netflix series, Never Have I.
So before you continue, I'm not really a fan of movies. So forgive me if I don't get it right. Correct.
All right. So no, it's not no right or wrong. So when I make the statement, then you continue.
I just say
with
something.
Anything, yes,
okay.
based on if it relates to you or not. So
right, okay.
you also be. So this is like the Never Have I, the African Leadership Conversation Edition. So Sly, never have I.
Never have I thought that there will be a time where young people start talking about leadership because it affects them so much. I didn't think about that, but it's happening now and I'm excited.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right.
Yeah, Chris. All right, Chris. So yours is quite longer, but please make it very short. So if you were CEO of an organization, what will you do differently in 1 minute?
What will I do differently? I think I will. Okay, as a I have to delegate more. First of all, I have to build the right team. Again, for me, it's very crucial. Delegate more responsibility. Get a mentor myself, because I have to, whilst others have been accountable to me, I also have to be accountable to someone. If not a mentor, just have to get somebody to be accountable to, and making sure that I render accountability to such a person. Thank you.
Okay, so we finally come to the end, and do well to send us your suggestion and comments to the email that will be left in the comment section. So thank you so much, and see you at the next episode. Bye.